He would
the
have
song?
the rights, at least half of the rights to the publishing of the song. I said, I can't do that. This song's already been a hit with me, and this is in my publishing company, and obviously this is going to be one of my most important copyrights, and I can't give you half the publishing.
When you think of Dolly Parton, what comes to mind? America's sweetheart, right? A woman with a heart as big as her hair, a shimmering, rhinestone-covered icon of pure kindness. Her smile can light up a stadium, and her music has been a healing force for millions. But what if that's not the whole story? The word hate is a strong one, maybe too strong for a woman who seems to love everyone. But behind the million-dollar smile lies a history of shocking feuds, bitter rivalries, and stunning betrayals. Today, we're peeling back the layers of the legend to reveal the tough, shrewd, and fiercely protective businesswoman underneath. We're uncovering the stories behind the singers Dolly Parton clashed with, from million-dollar lawsuits to collaborations. That ended in fury. So if you think you know Dolly, get ready. You're about to see this country legend in a whole new light. We have to start with the man who was both her greatest champion and, for a time, her biggest adversary, Porter Wagoner. Their story isn't a simple feud. It's the foundational myth of Dolly's career, a saga of ambition, control, and the painful price of freedom that produced one of the greatest songs ever written. When a young Dolly joined the Porter Wagoner Show in 1967, she was a diamond in the rough. He was Mr. Grand Ole Opry, a titan of country music who gave her a massive break. Together, they were golden, a beloved duo whose on-screen chemistry was undeniable. But as the years passed, Dolly's star wasn't just rising, it was exploding. She was no longer just Porter's girl singer. The dynamic grew tense, and Dolly, a fiercely independent artist, felt stifled. In later interviews, she candidly called him a male chauvinist pig, explaining that as the man in charge, he wasn't used to ceding control. She recalled, "We were just a lot alike, both ambitious. I wanted to do things my way, and he wanted to do things his way." By 1974, she knew she had to go. In a moment of desperation, she did the only thing she knew how. She wrote a song. That song was "I Will Always Love You." She sang it for Porter, who reportedly cried as he listened. He told her she could go, on the condition that he could produce the record. It seemed like a beautiful end to their partnership, but the peace didn't last. In 1979, Porter hit her with a bombshell, a $3 million lawsuit for breach of contract. He argued that since he'd made her a star, he was entitled to a piece of her future earnings. "That was money that I didn't have," Dolly later recalled. To avoid a long, ugly court battle, she settled. While the exact amount is private, it's reported she paid him around $1 million over time, a painful price for her freedom. For years, the two were estranged. Yet time has a way of healing even the deepest wounds. They eventually reconciled, and in the final months of Porter's life in 2007, Dolly was by his bedside, a final act of closure and love. Next up is a conflict, born not from a lawsuit but from pure artistic differences. This is the story of the supergroup trio, Dolly Parton, Linda Ronstadt, and Emmylou Harris, and the creative clash that nearly tore it apart. When their first album, Trio, dropped in 1987, it was a masterpiece, winning a Grammy and going platinum. But when they reunited to record the follow-up in Trio 2 in the 90s, the magic turned into friction. The problem? A fundamental clash in creative philosophy between Dolly and Linda. Dolly is famously spontaneous in the studio. She works fast and trusts her instincts. Linda, on the other hand, was a meticulous perfectionist, known for spending days on a single vocal line. For Dolly, this pace was agonizing. "Ronstadt loves to work in the studio and works so slow it drives me nuts," Dolly admitted. The frustration got so intense, she joked they should have called the album The Three Tempers. The scheduling conflicts that had plagued their first attempt to record in the 70s also returned with a vengeance. Ronstadt grew frustrated with what she saw as Dolly's lack of availability. She recounted how last-minute cancellations cost them significant time and money. The project stalled completely, and the album was shelved for 5 years. Dolly felt hurt by the situation, saying, "I was made to feel hurt, insulted, burdened with guilt. I would have lived up to my word, but my word wasn't good enough for them." Trio 2 was eventually released in 1999, but the joy was gone. The album cover itself speaks volumes, a composite of 3 separate photos edited together. This wasn't a bitter feud, but a collision of 2 brilliant, uncompromising artists whose work styles were like oil and water. They admired each other's talent, but creating together was a battle. Wait a minute, Kenny Rogers. How could the other half of Islands in the Stream possibly land on this list? From their playful on-stage banter to their 40-year friendship, they were the picture of a perfect partnership. Let's be clear, this isn't a story of hate. Far from it. Both consistently described their relationship as one of deep, familial love, calling each other soulmates. But behind the laughter, rumors of professional friction have persisted for years. This entry isn't about a feud, but about debunking the very idea of one. Tabloids loved to whisper that Kenny's laid-back attitude sometimes meant Dolly carried more of the professional weight, only for them to share the credit equally. However, there is no credible evidence to back this up. Their personal bond was undeniably strong and genuine. Kenny himself said their on-stage flirting was just an act and that a real romance would have ruined their special friendship. So why do these rumors exist? It's the classic tale of trying to find cracks in a perfect picture. Their final duet, "You Can't Make Old Friends," says it all. It wasn't about romance, it was a tribute to their long and meaningful friendship. At Kenny's farewell concert, Dolly's tribute was filled with warmth and genuine love, proving that their bond was the real deal. So no, Dolly didn't hate Kenny Rogers. She loved him, and their story is a testament to one of country music's greatest friendships. Pretty surprising, right? It just goes to show there are always more layers to a legend than we think. If you're finding these hidden histories as fascinating as we are, do us a favor and hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe, because we have more shocking stories coming up that you won't want to miss. Now we enter the wild world of tabloid rumors. The alleged feud between Dolly and Reba McEntire is a classic tale of professional jealousy, eagerly pushed by gossip magazines for years. But is there any truth to it? Or is it just a story made up to pit 2 queens of country against each other? The tabloids painted a picture of a simmering rivalry, with one insider claiming, "Reba's always trying to one-up Dolly." But when you look for actual evidence, the whole story falls apart. In reality, Dolly and Reba's friendship goes back more than 40 years. Reba has repeatedly called Dolly one of her biggest inspirations. Reba's story of their first meeting says it all. At her Grand Ole Opry debut in 1977, Reba was told one of her song slots was being cut for a surprise appearance by Dolly. A young Reba wasn't mad. She was thrilled, calling Dolly a vision. When most of Reba's band was tragically killed in a plane crash in 1991, Dolly immediately offered Reba the use of her own band, an act of profound support, not rivalry. In 2021, the two finally recorded their first duet, a new version of "Does He Love You?" The footage shows 2 old friends laughing and enjoying each other's company. So, why the feud rumors? Reba has a simple explanation. Dolly is famously hard to get in touch with, preferring to communicate by fax. Reba even joked that she asked Kenny Rogers for Dolly's number, and he admitted he didn't have it either. Ultimately, the feud between these 2 legends is pure fiction. This next conflict is a sharp detour from country music. The person at the center isn't a singer, but a media personality whose whole brand was shock and controversy. This is the story of Dolly's public clash with the infamous Howard Stern, an incident that left the usually unflappable superstar feeling shocked, hurt, and humiliated. In 2008, Howard Stern's production team got a copy of the audiobook for Dolly's memoir. They then chopped, spliced, and maliciously edited the audio to create a grotesque parody. The doctored clips made it sound as if Dolly was spewing vile, racist, and sexually explicit remarks about her friends and collaborators. On May 6, 2008, Stern aired this monstrosity. Dolly, who had weathered decades of industry politics with a smile, was profoundly wounded. She released a powerful public statement saying, "I have never been so shocked, hurt, and humiliated in all my life. I cannot believe what Howard Stern has done to me. In a blue million years, I would never have such vulgar things come out of my mouth." It was a malicious distortion of her voice and character. The pain in her statement was palpable, and she concluded with a sentence that showed just how deep it cut. "If there was ever going to be a lawsuit, it's going to be over this." Stern was completely unrepentant at the time. While Dolly never filed a lawsuit, the incident showed the world that even America's sweetheart has a breaking point. It was an assault on her character, and her fiery response proved that beneath the gentle exterior is a fierce protector of her own legacy. This next entry is different. It's not based on a lawsuit or a public spat. Instead, it's rooted in a fundamental clash of values. There's no public record of Dolly ever saying a single word about the pop duo Milli Vanilli, and yet they represent the very antithesis of everything Dolly stands for: authenticity. Milli Vanilli exploded onto the scene in the late 80s with a string of infectious hits. The Feuds sold millions of albums and won the 1990 Grammy for Best New Artist. Then it all came crashing down when it was revealed they hadn't sung a single note on their records. Their Grammy was revoked, the first and only time in history. Now, imagine this from Dolly's perspective. She's a woman who grew up writing honest songs about her real life. Her voice is her signature. For Dolly, music is about hard work, paying your dues, and sharing a piece of your soul. From that viewpoint, what Milli Vanilli did was a betrayal of the artistic process. It was a corporate manufactured illusion. While Dolly never publicly condemned them, it's almost impossible to imagine her having anything but disdain for the deception. The scandal represented a fundamental dishonesty that went against the core of her artistic values. Her silence on the matter is perhaps more telling than any statement could be. For an artist as authentic as Dolly, there could be no greater musical sin. Our final entry is, much like the last one, based on a collision of worlds, not a direct feud. This is about an artist of down-home authenticity coming face-to-face with a band representing over-the-top spectacle. On the surface, it's hard to imagine two acts more different. Dolly, the queen of country, with her rhinestones and homespun wisdom. Kiss, the rock and roll demons, with their makeup, pyrotechnics, and fire-breathing anthems. Dolly's brand is warmth. Kiss's is larger-than-life spectacle. Any rumored disdain would stem from this divide. For a songwriter like Dolly, Kiss could be seen as a triumph of image over substance. However, this is complicated by a persistent urban legend. The story claims that the members of Kiss were huge fans and asked to cover "I Will Always Love You" in 1974. According to the tale, Dolly even visited them in the studio and helped Paul Stanley write lyrics for their song "Hotter Than Hell," but declined credit. This story is widely considered a fun piece of rock trivia with no concrete evidence. So what's the truth? When Dolly recorded her Rock Star album in 2023, she collaborated with a pantheon of rock legends. Conspicuously absent from that star-studded 30-track lineup? Kiss. Their absence feels significant. Whether it was a genuine dislike of their style or simply a case of two different musical worlds never aligning, the lack of a relationship highlights Dolly's clear artistic preferences. For her, the song has always come first. And perhaps, in her view, for a band like Kiss, the spectacle did. So there you have it, a look into the complex professional battles of Dolly Parton. From the painful breakup with her mentor, Porter Wagoner, to the artistic clashes with Linda Ronstadt, and the utter violation of her character by Howard Stern. We've debunked tabloid rumors about friends like Kenny Rogers and Reba McEntire, and explored why her values likely put her at odds with acts like Milli Vanilli and Kiss. These stories don't tarnish Dolly's image. If anything, they enrich it. They reveal the steel spine beneath the rhinestones. They show a tough businesswoman who fought for her creative freedom, stood up for her principles, and fiercely protected her integrity. The word hate is too simple. These were defining moments that tested her resolve and shaped her into the icon she is today. It proves that even America's sweetheart has a breaking point, and her kindness should never be mistaken for weakness. Did any of these surprise you? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into the lives of your favorite stars. Thanks for watching.